Welcome back once again to the USA Friendship Quilt. In this lesson 5, we're going to be working on the trapunto map, and also we're getting the quilt ready for quilting by marking it. I've included the quilting design in this lesson, but because the flag is so large, I had to give you 15 pages to print it out on. Now we need to line them up so everything works out right. So you'll see on each page there's a series of circles with a plus in between. Those are alignment guides, and we're going to use those to align each sheet up together. So I'm going to take page A, and what I'm going to do here is align my ruler on the vertical lines of those alignment guides, and using a rotary cutter with an old blade in it, I'm just going to trim off the part I don't need, like so, because we need to align these to pages right next to it. So again, I'm going to take the ruler and put it on the horizontal lines this time and trim off the excess. Now by doing that, when it comes time to put it down against the page next to it, which in this case would be page B, I can just lay it right down and it'll be aligned by aligning this guide here. Now we have to do the same thing with this page. We have to trim off the bottom. We're going to do that by lining the ruler up to the horizontal line on the alignment guides and trim that away. Come over on the right side, align the ruler up with the vertical guidelines. So now you don't go into a near panic when you're trying to get these to align, because they are definitely going to align for you now. And when I put the tape on them to hold it in place, let me show you what I'm talking about. Do you see how now I have a perfect alignment circle again, right where I cut those pieces off? So you're going to continue doing that with all your pieces until you get it all put together. It's going to be another giant jigsaw. Now the reason why I didn't include this with your state alignment was because we were pressing on that, and sometimes when you're pressing, it kind of throws the alignment of the paper off a little bit. So I thought it would be best to give you another set of papers to work with so that you can mark your quilt accurately. And this is what your map will look like after you get all the pieces put together. Now you're going to put it underneath your quilt and start marking out all the quilting lines. By doing your marking now, once we finish with all the work on the map itself, we'll be ready to jump right into free motion quilting and finish this quilt up. For our next step, we're going to make the map part of our quilt trapunto, so it will stand out from the background quilting. So I've got a scrap of wool batting here that I had left over from another project. You can use polyester, You can use an 80-20 blend, whatever you happen to have on hand. But you just need a piece big enough to cover the actual map of the United States. So the next thing we're going to do is put our quilt down on that and make sure that we have enough batting to cover not only the map of the United States, but also we want to make sure we don't leave out Alaska and Hawaii. So that's the next step. Now, we could do this applique the hard way and buttonhole or satin stitch along every single state, which will take some time. But you should know me by now. I always try to find the shortcuts, and this is what we're going to do instead. Once we have that down, then we're going to layer a piece of tulle. You can see it's very see-through. It's white. And by putting this down on top of your applique pieces, you don't have to worry about them fraying. So what we're going to do is we're going to pin this all in place. After we're done with that, in order to do the trapunto, we're going to stitch all around the outside edge of the map. And then we're going to trim away not only the excess batting on the back, but we'll trim away the excess tulle as well. And I'll be back to show you how that's done. Here at the machine, we're ready to go around the map of the United States, just on the outside. I'm using invisible thread in the top and regular bobbin thread in the bobbin. And I just want to make sure that I am stitching just barely on the outside. Like so. I don't want to stitch on the applique pieces, just on the outside edges.
I don't know that.
So continue doing this around your entire map on the outside, and we'll come back and start the trimming part. So using a pair of applique scissors or whatever kind of scissors you're happy with to get into tiny areas, we're going to go ahead and trim away this excess tulle. Now you don't have to worry about getting exceptionally close, because we will be echo quilting this map again, and we'll catch the excess tulle in that echo quilting. But in the meantime, you want to go ahead, trim this away, and you don't have to be totally worried about little places like that. You can just let that be. So I'm going to continue on with my trimming, and I'll come back whenever we're ready to do the back. And don't forget Alaska and Hawaii. After the netting is trimmed away, then you'll turn your quilt over to the back and do the same thing with the batting, trimming it as close to the stitching as you can, Be very careful not to cut your fabric. So sometimes you just have to do a little bit at a time to ensure that you're not cutting the fabric. But you can see how this is going to raise up when we put the other batting down. So this part is going to stick out more, which is what we're after. So again, continue your trimming, take your time. You've done a lot of work to get up to this point, so you don't want to mess it up now. And I'll be back after I get this all trimmed out. And here it is after it's haircut. After that's all done, it's now time to sandwich your quilts. So use the batting of your choice. I used an 80-20 blend, and your backing, and pin all the layers together so that we're ready to go. We're now ready to do the actual quilting on the map. And what we're going to do, I still have invisible thread in my top thread, regular thread in the bottom. And what we're going to do is we're just going to stitch down here and around, back up, and then we'll have to do some backtracking, but what we want to do is end up outlining each of the states. So let's get started. I've already drawn up my bobbin thread, and now I'm ready to start stitching along the states. And I'm going to come all the way down the center, basically because I want to tack the netting down to keep it from shifting from east to west. And all you're doing is stitching between the states. Now take your time, there's no rush. Now remember before I told you that we'd be stitching along the outside edge a lot? Well, this is why, because we have to go around Texas now in order to get back up to the other states. For those of you who might never have used invisible thread before, generally you're going to lower your upper thread tension when you work with it because it's so thin, but it's very strong. And I'm using a polyester. I don't care for the nylon because it will turn yellow in time, and it's not as resistant to a lot of things that the polyester is. So I always use the polyester thread, and what I'm using is the monopoly from Superior Thread, and it's the clear versus the smoke. Okay, now we need to go in here to take care of Oklahoma. And one of the reasons we're using clear thread, as you'll see, is we're going to end up doing a lot of backtracking. Like right here, we have to go back up the other side of Oklahoma again. But we're just going to continue on like this, taking your time, This is what's giving your states their definition, particularly since we have that extra row of batting underneath it. And I'm just going to go back this way because it's a straight line. It's easier to backtrack. And I'm going to continue on like that, and I'll be back when I get mine all outlined. This is a close-up of the map and the trapunto effect on the map itself. You can see how it stands out from the quilting in the background, and that's what we're looking for. I also want you to note around Alaska and Hawaii. I've done some pebbling around both of those states to make them stand out away from the background quilting of the flag.